This is NHTV2, North Haven Government Television, a service of North Haven Community Television. The following program is brought to you through the support of the Town of North Haven.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Mike Frieda, North Haven's first Selectman, and welcome to our April Board of Selectmen meeting. I'm joined, as always, by our second Selectman, Mr. William Piper, and our third Selectwoman, Ms. Sally Boemi. Welcome. I'd like to ask everyone to stand for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to propose an amendment to this evening's agenda, and I'd like to propose an amendment to have Mr. Ray Fowler and Mrs. Sally Fowler, instead of speaking in public comment tonight, I'd like to move them to the top of the agenda and invite them to talk about their program. And this is child abuse time. And Ray and Sally have been here many times. So I'd like to entertain a motion to amend the agenda to have Ray and Sally speak first.
I'll make that motion. That would make them 1A on the agenda.
Yes.
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right. There's a motion and there's a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Ray and Sally, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Allow me to thank the board for the very gracious allowing me to go first. I also want to apologize. My illness is beginning to affect my vocal cords, and I may have to take small sips of water as we progress along, so please excuse me. For the last 17 years, my wife Sally and I have appeared before you, allowed to appear before you, to talk about the many evils of child abuse. I would love to stand here this evening and tell you that things are getting better, that our efforts are paying off. Unfortunately, however, that's just not true. For the year 2024, figures have just been released. We are seeing the second largest increase in child abuse, 13.8%, and it's second only to the 17.1% that we saw during the pandemic. It's just getting worse. And I don't think that anyone in this room can remember or not be aware of the terrible tragedy that we're hearing about in Waterbury, where a very young child was taken captive, literally, kept in an unheated, unair-conditioned room, given 2 cups of water a day and half a sandwich. And they did that for over 20 years until the young man reached adulthood. It became so bad, so terrible, that this young adult actually set his home on fire rather than continue the life that he was forced to live. He would rather die in the fire. Think for a minute about what a terrible tragedy this is. Imagine yourself in a very small room, no food, no climate control, nothing but an existence where you're locked up. And this is really, unfortunately, all too typical of the problems that we incur in child abuse. And remember, child abuse is not about one person, it's about every person, because every person is responsible to help these children. We've seen it all too often. We've even had an instance last year right here in North Haven. And it's unfortunate, but it continues. Now, one of the things that we've tried to do over the last 17 years in North Haven, I personally have been involved in the child abuse movement since 1968. That's 57 years. And I've seen a great deal. But we continue to work. Some people ask me, Ray, why? The answer is simple. We continue to work because we have to. Because children are the future. They're the future of North Haven. They're the future of Connecticut. They're the future of the United States. And indeed, they're the future of the world. We continue the efforts. Despite the fact that we have these unexpected and hopefully never again increases in child abuse, just causes us to redouble our efforts. I'd like to take a minute to recount some of the things that our program has done, along with a few things that we have attempted to do. Since our inception some 17 years ago in North Haven, we have given away, at no charge, 3,989 tote bags, which all of you have here this evening, tote bags, insulated lunch bags, and several all-purpose bags. That's 3,989 altogether. And I understand by good sources that our program now reaches our bags, rather, all our giveaways is what I mean. All our giveaways are now in 27 states and 5 foreign countries. That was my late daughter. She traveled all over the world for NASA, and she always brought bags with her. We've also given away 552 jar openers with our ways to encourage a child. We've given away 123 flashlights, 423 notepads with pens, 25 wristbands, the kids love those, 50 coffee cups, 1,478 pens, 100 neck cords, and 250 lapel pins. In addition to this, in cooperation with the town of North Haven and the Freedom Administration, we have given away 300 Savannah Hardin candy bars, Hershey bars. We, thanks to the good efforts of Valerie Goodkin, she put together a pamphlet for us. We're unable to give you an exact number on that because they were distributed throughout the town and people just picked them up. So we have no idea really a number on that. In addition, in cooperation with the North Haven Hamden chapter of the Federation of Women's Clubs, we had a poster made up. And we did that by sponsoring a contest in high school where the art department actually produced for us a very nice child abuse poster, and we distributed those, and we distributed 78 of those. In addition, we have done over 100 speaking engagements. We have been present at 3 various public events, and we have had 11 citizens on our advisory council. In addition to that, we have, can't read my own writing, either that or I'm going blind. We have several miscellaneous attachments that we've also distributed. Why do we do it? We do it because it has to be done. The instance of child abuse must be reinforced to all of us. So you may say, well, Ray, what do we do? It's really simple. The number one weapon against child abuse is reporting. If you see child abuse, if you suspect child abuse, report it. My understanding is that in the case in Waterbury, it was reported over 17 times to local authorities, and the Connecticut Department of Children and Families, as ineffectual as it is, did absolutely nothing to really end this horrendous event. As a matter of fact, the former director of DCS was forced to resign. And I might add that the person leading the charge, we should be very grateful to him, the person leading the charge to see her dismissal was our very own former state senator, Len Fasano. To keep this program moving, reporting is critical. I want to stress to all of you that there is no penalty for reporting. This is like any other crime that you see, and it is a crime. This is like any other crime that you see. If you see a crime committed, you report it. You cannot be held liable unless you make a false report, just like any other crime. But if you report it, you are protected by law. That's why it's necessary to do the reporting. In addition, we'd like to encourage you I'm sorry, I have to wear 10-pound weights just to keep from shaking to death there. Use these bags. Every one of the items that we give away that I've already told you about, every one that we've ever given away has our motto inscribed on it. No excuse for child abuse. And there is no excuse for child abuse. So use this bag. Go to the grocery store. Go shopping. Go wherever you go and carry the bag with you. Spread the word. You never know, the abuser may see this and suddenly decide the following of their ways. Child abuse is a horrible thing. A statistic from a few years back, I'm sorry I don't have a current one, but the last statistic that they did that I've seen anyway was 2022. And it said that over 81% of all career criminals traced their path to criminality through child abuse. They were abused as children, they became criminals. 81%. In stopping child abuse, you not only help the child, excuse me, you help the entire community. We make it a better and safer place to live. We literally give a child their life back, because child abuse takes away any semblance of a decent life that a person may have. We need to stop it. We need to end it. If you see it, report it. And please always remember, no excuse for child abuse. Having said that, I'd like to formally announce this evening that I'm stepping down as chairman of this program. I just can't do it any longer. Between weights and electric shock gloves and the fact that my legs are failing, I just can't do it anymore. So I'm stepping down the chairmanship and passing it on to my wife, who's been involved for 27 years. I've been involved in the movement, as I said, for 57 years. I will now step down from chairmanship to become a member of our advisory committee to help whenever we can, but Sally will continue on. Ever since that day, in 1968, when I was serving as a Marine at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and I saw that tortured, and tortured is the only word I can use, young child, and had to carry her out of the home where she was being abused. I knew then that this had to be my life's work. Well, I'm old now. I'm old and I'm sick. But I'm never going to give up the effort. I'm always going to be involved in some way, to whatever extent my illness will allow me. We've got to fight this. We've got to end this. We've got to call the end of the game. We've got to say, we're going to reduce it. We'll never end it. It's impossible to end it. But hopefully, next year, during April, which is Child Abuse Month, Sally will be able to say to you that we have a 13.8% decrease instead of an increase for the prior year. I thank you all very much for your kind attention. I thank the board for this courtesy.
Thank you, Raymond.
I know Sally will step in and do what both of you have been dedicated to, do it proud. If I remember correctly, Sally, you talked last year and did a wonder, just as Ray did today, spoke very eloquently, based on you. This is Child Abuse Awareness Month as well, just for everybody's benefit, which is why I think you've been so good about appearing here on an annual basis to bring, child, because this is the Awareness Month, and you've done your part, more than your part, to make people aware about it. So, thank you.
And Ray, I want to thank you for all of your work here in North Haven, and I'm sure, as Bill said, Sally will carry on the tradition of your dedication very well for you.
That's my lady.
I know.
55 years.
I have a lot of your trinkets, as you call them, in my home, and I use them all the time.
Thank you again, Ray and Sally. Thank you for being here. Okay, next item on the agenda, any public comment to tonight's agenda? All right, we'll move to item number 3, the approval of the Board of Selectmen meeting minutes of the March 6th, 2025 meeting. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll second Sally's motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for that vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, I have a few slides I'd like to present tonight. You can please direct your attention to the screens, some informational updates. And I wanted to review the fiscal 25-26 budget dates. We've spoken about this before. There will be a public hearing on this budget on April 7th, which is Monday night, at the North Haven High School at 7 p.m. There'll be a Board of Finance meeting on April 16th at 6:30 p.m. up here at Town Hall, Conference Room 1. There'll be another town meeting Monday, May 12th. Again, a budget meeting, and that's at the North Haven High School. And our referendum will be Tuesday, May 20th, 2025, from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., all voting, Mildred Wakely Recreation Center. I've said it before, I'll be saying it Monday night. This is the most difficult budget we've ever been faced with, for one reason. Property values have skyrocketed in North Haven. 37.5%. What that means is that when we look at the residential homes, and we'll be talking about this Monday night, that the residents now have about 56% of the tax burden. And this was the opposite of what we've tried to accomplish down through the years by bringing new businesses in. It's not just us, ladies and gentlemen. There's about 30 cities and towns across Connecticut that are going through reval. There'll be another 20 or 30 next year. In this area, it's Hamden, West Haven, Wallingford, us, and a couple of other surrounding cities and towns. So when we look at this, there will be a mill rate drop. But I'll be very candid here tonight. It's not going to be enough to flatten the tax rate out where nobody pays any more taxes. On Monday night, I'm going to be profiling the different styles in homes. I'm going to give you the average value of a colonial, a ranch, a split level, a raised ranch, versus the previous years when I mentioned this is the average house in North Haven. I'm going to show it by styles. So please come. We want to hear your comments. It's not going to be a good year because of the reval. And I'm going to leave you with this. Government is a paradox in many respects. There's contradictions. It's not just North Haven, it's everywhere. The paradoxical point in this is that when we look at our homes and we say, well, one of the most valuable components in our overall portfolio of wealth is the value of our house. You want your house to rise in value. Houses have risen anywhere from $80,000 to $180,000 in value during this reval. The irony is that in government, you have to pay for the unrealized gain of the value of the house. So on paper, it looks great. On paper, it inflates your home wealth. But, again, the paradox, you have to pay for the unrealized gain. And you might ask, why have property values risen? For several reasons. First of all, there's a low supply and a high demand. And what does that mean? Shawmut Avenue is a good example. There was a house that was listed for $345,000. This is one of dozens and dozens of examples. There was a bidding war in the streets. The asking price was $345,000. I think at that time it sold for $399,000. When houses sell in a respective neighborhood and there's a bidding war in the street for that house and the sale price is much higher than the asking price, the whole neighborhood escalates in terms of property values. And that's what's happened here in North Haven. For some reason, people want to move to North Haven. Wallingford's another good example. My colleague, Mayor Savoni, is going through the same thing. We had a regional discussion today, myself and the mayors of Wallingford, West Haven, Hamden, East Haven, and some other cities and towns. Mayors and first selectmen I'm very close with. We're also going to try to lobby, because we don't even know what our state revenue is going to be. We won't know the exact number on state revenue until after the referendum passes. So we're trying to work with the governor. I'm now president of COST, 125 cities and towns in Connecticut. So we're trying to use that, our affiliation with CCM, of which I'm on the executive board and executive committee, to see if we could get a more crystal clear picture as to what the numbers will be for our state revenue. So that's kind of an overview. We'll talk more about that on Monday evening. Economic development. This is good news and bad news. The bad news is a lot of these projects I have are tied up because they're on state roads. And rightfully so. The Department of Transportation and the State Traffic Commission have to weigh in to make sure that the traffic studies are completed before these developments take place. A good example of that is in front of Amazon. I've got this major project I'm working on, 9 acres. The first step will be a brand new concept of a 7-Eleven, a 4,500 square foot store that will serve a lot of different items, including lunch items, breakfast items. But we're tied up because it's in front of Amazon and the State Traffic Commission has to come in. So what does that mean? It means that the development gets stalled, building permit fees haven't happened, which is one of the reasons why our building permit fees are off this year. We've got a lot of these projects that are tied up, but they have to be tied up to ensure the safety of traffic. So we're getting, to use a baseball analogy, we're getting singles and doubles. I just announced a new a smoothie shop that's going to go over on 120 Universal Drive. It is one of the hottest things, one of the hottest franchises. I posted it on social media. Social media blew up. People like this concept. I'm going to be announcing 1 or 2 more restaurants. I've got Rite Aid that we're trying to get a solution there at Monteluise. The big news will be, when it happens, I have a meeting with the executives from Medtronics in May again. I'm meeting with them every other month. $1 billion invested in North Haven for an expansion on the second largest company here in town. So some might say, well, Mike, with all this news, how come that the revenue's not coming in? Because I'd say most people don't know, and I didn't know it either until I took office, that because the way the grand list works, you've got to get everything in by October 1st of every given year. The budget precedes the revenue from these projects that we have. So if these projects manifest themselves and come to fruition this year, we don't get credit for it this year, 25, 26. It goes into the next year. So it's kind of ironic, isn't it? Government's a paradox, contradictions, but that's the way it is. And we can't make excuses. We have to just get it done, and that's my job here, to get it done. So I'm going to be supporting the budget Monday night for this reason. It maintains every single service that we have in town. If it doesn't pass, I'm going to outline exactly areas that are going to have to be cut back. Now, Sally mentioned a couple of months ago about, we said this last year, right? And she was right. We did say this last year. Well, these are the areas that we're probably going to have to cut back. We didn't do it. We moved some revenue around. We put some more revenue in terms of interest income, which we were happy to see it happen because the interest rates, the yields we were getting were high. But the difference this year is that it's a reval year. And when homes rise $100,000, $120,000, $150,000, a mill rate reduction that's needed to flat tax everybody would cripple the services here in town. So what you're going to see on Monday is a budget that maintains everything. If it fails, there will be cuts. There's no doubt about it. Next. On Saturday, the 26th of April, we have this annual pill return. We've been doing this for years here. We work in conjunction with the DEA, and this is an area to help reduce, in some way, shape, or form, by having people bring in their medications, which they don't use anymore, bring it to the firehouse. Valerie's involved with this, with our community service. I attend, and people drop off things that they don't use anymore. What we found in the beginning of this program is that at the time, 53% of all kids who ended up getting hooked on drugs started with painkillers out of their medicine cabinets in their parents' homes. So we've taken maybe 1 million bottles in the last, let's say, 15 years, probably more. So 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., fire headquarters right there across the way there on 11 Broadway, drive through, convenience, come out, take the products from the cars, and that's the way that works. It's been a very, very successful program.
Mike, the key, I think, is it's a pill return. There are some things that, and I think probably on our website, it does specify the things that you can't bring. For instance, illegal drugs.
Yes.
Syringes, I think inhalers are probably out, even though they may be prescription, or kind of outside of the program.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the website will maybe list, but it's a good way, I think, as you said, to bring back prescription medication or pills that that could be problematic for children and even adults.
Thank you, Bill. Blooming for Good. During the month of April, for every Blooming for Good bouquet purchased at Stop and Shop, as you'll see on that screen, they will donate $1 to our Community Services Food Bank. And the Community Services Food Bank is another vital service that we offer here. It's like a little store, ladies and gentlemen. It's maybe a little bit smaller than this conference room, where people who are in need can go in and basically shop privately. They could take pasta, mayonnaise, tuna, peanut butter, soups. It's really a wonderful resource that we offer here. And I'd like to thank Stop and Shop for this contribution of $1 for every bouquet purchase that goes back in to helping people in need. And I like the phrase, happiness in full bloom. Earth Day. We work with the Earth Day group who puts this on. We will celebrate Earth Day, sponsored by the North Haven Conservation Commission, Saturday, April 26th, 10 to 1:30, across the street at the rec center. We get a lot of people come to this, and it's a wonderful event, and hopefully you'll consider attending. Thank you. Now, I thought I had a slide here on the Memorial Day Parade. We will have the Memorial Day Parade this year. We'll have to get the exact date valid. I don't recall.
It's the 24th.
24th, okay?
It's Saturday, May 24th.
A little earlier,
A
yeah.
little earlier, that's right. So the post 70, the post group next door, post 76. Nick Mastriani and his team do a great job. We support them here, we help them. But I want to turn this over to Sally Buemi, who came up with a thought, and I thought it was a good idea. Sally, go ahead.
Yes, I'll talk about the Memorial Day Parade first, and then I have a few comments about some of your overview points. I have been working a bit on celebrating the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II, trying to find living World War II veterans in North Haven. There's going to be an event honoring the World War II veterans on the occasion of the 80th anniversary. The war ended in 1945. This is 2025, 80 years. And you'll recall we talked about it last time. In 2015, I organized the 70th, which was very successful, 70th anniversary of the end of World War II, and I had 12 veterans in that parade, in the Memorial Day Parade in open cars, and it was very successful and very well received. So I've started thinking, and 2025 is another important date. It is the 50th anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War, which Mr. Fowler fought in. Vietnam War was part of our everyday lives when we grew up. We grew up at the same time. And I thought that I would, if you agree, I would like to try to organize a similar I know there are a lot more Vietnam veterans in town than there for the 50th than there were World War II vets, but I think I'd like to try to organize some sort of banner that we can make. I have some contacts in the sign industry that I think would help me, so that we could do an appropriate acknowledgement of the 50th anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War, which actually was in April. We were talking about that earlier, which I remember that day very well. And so what do you think? I assume that you will be supportive of that effort, so I'm going to work on that.
Yes.
Okay.
So how about if we entertain a motion for Sally to work on this project and report back to us at the next Board of Selectmen meeting, which would be in May?
In early May. I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Second. All right.
I'll be glad to help Sally out
Thank
as
you.
well, as we discussed.
I know, yes, with the post 76, yes.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll call for that vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Yes, and I had a few comments on some of your points that you made during your overview, if I may. I agree with you. The reval is certainly having a major impact on the taxpayer obligations that we will be seeing come July. What is very interesting, as you said, it's the grand list has, I'd say, 4 main components. You have the residential component, which has grown from 52% to 56%. And then you have the commercial industrial, and you have personal property, which is, to me, a bad name for it, because it's really business property that businesses pay tax on for their equipment. All of the equipment that they use for their business, they pay the same mill rate, they pay personal property, and then there's motor vehicle. So as I believe Chairman Doheny of the Board of Finance pointed out at the last Board of Finance meeting, it's not only this increase in valuation, increase in assessment of your property, but because this has impacted all components, but it has impacted the residential the most, and has really shifted a higher percentage of the burden onto the homeowners. And I'll give you a perfect example. Like you said, the average residential property assessment increased 37.5%. Personal property increased just 7%. So right now, the way the budget stands, it may change. We don't know. It may change after the public hearing, and it certainly will change if it gets rejected in May. But with the current budget that will be presented, the mill rate is going down 15%. So from 34.64 down to 29.43, which is a 15% decrease. So think about that. The mill rate's going down 15%, but your property value went up 37%, but the personal property only went up 7%.
Right.
So who's going to be paying less tax and who's going to be paying more tax? And for some of our biggest taxpayers in town, they pay far more personal property tax than they do real estate tax. Isn't that correct?
Well, yes. That's happened. It's happened.
They pay the residential is, obviously they pay tax on their real estate that they own, that they're operating on, but they pay a lot more. I'm talking about the biggest taxpayers. They pay a lot of personal property, and their personal property only went up 7%. So they're going to make out quite well with a 15% reduction. And it's just, as Mr. Frieda rightly said, it is because of the values of houses prior in the months leading up to October 1st, which is the magic grand list date. And you're absolutely right. There were bidding wars. I've been a real estate attorney for 41 years. I've never seen anything like I saw last year with houses selling for $40,000 to $50,000 more than asking price. My real estate agent friends would say, we never even had time to put the for sale sign in front of the house. They were on the market for hours. Right. It's already changing. I've already seen this. You see a lot more signs up. It's already slowing down. In fact, I'm involved in a transaction right now here in North Haven, and the seller made a significant reduction in his asking price. So it's starting to settle down. Unfortunately, what we're stuck with is the October 1st assessments. And those were based on sales prices in the months leading up to there.
That's right.
And there was nothing like last spring and summer that I have ever seen in my 41 years as a real estate attorney. And so I just wanted to point that out. And yes, the reval is certainly a major reason why homeowners are going to see a tax increase, because it was the homeowners that had the highest percentage increase compared to the other components of the grand list. But our budget is also going up $9 million, so don't underestimate that. That is a factor as well. Go ahead, Bill. I'm not quite done, but you can go.
I'm sorry.
No.
I didn't want to have you go into another one because I just wanted to
And it is
Kinda
very
add to one of the
true
things you said.
what Mr. Frieda said about the grand list itself. When you have new development, it doesn't make it on to the grand list until the following October. So the October 24 grand list, which is what was revalued up, the taxes get paid the first half in July of 2025, and then the second half in January of 26. So we don't, that new construction, that new renovation, whatever, does not quite get on the grand list. However, there are supplemental taxes that we do collect when, if it's new construction and a CO, a certificate of occupancy, is issued, there is a prorated supplemental tax. So we do collect something, but certainly not the benefit of the full year of that.
That's right.
So there is some money that comes in despite this 1 year. So that was all that I wanted to add and I just, again, want to commend you for your tireless efforts on economic development. I do understand the delays, especially on state roads, and we'll hopefully continue on with more economic development, because that is the best thing that will help taxpayers in the near future years to come.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, Bill, you want to?
Yeah, and I just wanted to kind of further second what you're saying about, personal property being really business property. And the other aspect of business property, like computers, machinery, equipment, it depreciates.
Right.
So, it doesn't necessarily, once you buy it, ever go up again. It only goes down till you buy a new computer or a new processing machine or a new piece of manufacturing equipment. So, I think that's not necessarily ever subject to a revaluation. I think the businesses submit their list of business equipment, business property, which is called personal property, as Sally was saying, which is kind of a misnomer. But it's not surprising that it only went up 7%, because it really is kind of different than residential property and commercial property in terms of real property.
I agree, but when it usually does go up a little bit, we get more.
It did go up
tax.
7%,
Yeah,
which
we
is
do
probably
get more
normal.
tax from that segment of the
Right.
grand list, but we're not going to, because the grand list has gone down a higher percentage than that
on a
increase.
relative
That's just an example of why there, as Tim Doheny said, why there's an extra burden of a shift to
Right. residential,
because you think of it as those four components making up the pie.
Yeah.
The homeowner's piece of pie got bigger in comparison, and so they'll actually benefit a little bit from the necessary reval reduction.
I'll make one final point on this.
Yeah.
The other irony about this is that I've got mayor friends of mine whose grand list is flat because of no economic development, but the motor vehicle revenue, some of them are losing $2 to $3 million in revenue. They have to raise taxes just to offset the motor vehicle drops in revenue. So they're raising taxes for the opposite reason. They didn't have reval, they had no grand list growth, but they took a huge hit. My friend, the mayor of New London, good friend of mine, he's pulling his hair out right now. He's got all kinds of issues up there, major tax increases as a result of this, plus 45%, I think, in New London is non-taxable real estate, 40 or 45%. So his pilot payments are dropped from the state. That's another thing here. We don't know what the final pilot number is going to be. So these are real problems today, folks, that all of us are faced with. And, I share this with you from a transparent standpoint. One last irony. I'm going to present this budget on Monday, April 7th. I'm going to get into such detail that it's going to be a toss-up whether this budget passes, rather than hide the detail, which I will never do, because by hiding detail, it disguises the reality. So I'm going to do this in great detail. We're not adding anything to this budget, because I know, I talked to thousands of people. I was at a wake today. People were begging me, Mr. Frieda, don't raise taxes. I had a little, over at the funeral home, in the foyer, I had a group of people, I was trying to explain to them what reval meant. That's why we didn't add anything, other than perhaps a half of a police officer. So the more we add, the more this budget's gonna go down. I'm leaving you with this. We're creating a budget that maintains everything we have now. That's where it's at.
I think I'm trying to picture the grand list sheet in my mind. I think our motor vehicle section went down 13%.
13.7.
Yeah, but well, because it was so outrageously high
COVID.
at the
Right.
last reval. I mean, we have reval every 5 years, and you may say, well, how come we're not getting these $1,200, this is a very unique one. Because of, as you said, the market just went wild in the months immediately prior to October 1st, and motor vehicle is down. And we will lose some, that's shifting more of the responsibility to the other segments of the grand list because motor vehicle is in the negative. So we're not, and we will, so you will see some savings on your car taxes. However, you have to remember that your car taxes were capped, what was it, 32? What's the state, the car tax was?
32, I think.
32 something.
32, right.
So even though our mill rate was 34.64 in this current year, and that's what you paid for your real estate, for your car tax, you only paid the state limit of 32 point something. So the reduction down doesn't hurt us as much there. But still, that again is part of this shift over to the tremendous 37.5% increase on that big block of residential property. Yeah. So, okay.
We're good.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to turn this
And
over to...
the other thing, too, I think the point that Mike made earlier is the uncertainty about what we get from the state.
Yeah.
I just went and did my calculation on this year's budget, and only, 6.25% of our budget, I mean, on the income side, comes from the state of Connecticut. It's still about $8 million. And that uncertainty could be a couple $1 million, which is a big uncertainty. Especially, and then the other thing, in terms of federal and state grants, I think in terms of maybe that are not directly in our budget, in terms of like Board of Education, with all the uncertainty in Washington, that adds another level of uncertainty in terms of the Board of Education's budget as well.
Right.
So, it's interesting how even a 6.25% portion of our budget, where we support ourselves with our taxes, as our primary source of revenue, that still is puts a lot of variability in us trying to come up with a firm number, because it could be unexpectedly less. And there are some towns that I think are using which we definitely do not want to do, use their fund balance.
Yeah,
I think,
East
to try to
Haven's
make up the
doing
difference.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. As
Well,
Mike was saying.
86% of our revenue is from taxpayers. We have about 44 line items in our revenue budget. And you're right, only a little more than 6% is from state and federal sources. Many towns around are much higher than that. And our other sources, such as building fees, fire fees, we have quite a few other sources are being affected. Like Mike said, the building fees, which is a big chunk. We usually budget about 1.4 to 1.5 million there, is being affected by some slowdowns with our state projects, as you said. So there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of frustration, but I know, as I commended you, you're going to continue on your fight for more economic development, and that's really what we're going to need going forward. But this is going to be a very difficult year.
Okay.
And the third tax increase in a row, so that's really even harder. So, Okay,
Right,
so
who'd like to take appointments and resignations?
Bill, why don't you go with that?
Thank you, Sally. Next item on the agenda, appointments and resignations. I'll make a motion to accept the resignation of Pastor Scott Morrow, 34 Bassett Road, from the Cemetery Commission, term to expire June 30th, 2025.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I met with Reverend Morrow. He's been a wonderful partner for this town, a great colleague of mine. We spent a lot of time together down through the years, and we'll miss him on this commission. So all those in favor? Aye.
Aye. Just one little, I agree, he's been on for a very long time. It's my understanding the Cemetery Commission hasn't met in a very long time. Will it resume meeting, do you know, anytime in the future? It hasn't
Yeah.
met in about 4 or 5 years.
Yep.
It's supposed to meet quarterly.
Right. Yeah, I anticipate it will.
Okay.
But anyway, yes, and yes, and
Okay.
yes, okay.
All right. Well, again, we thank Pastor Morrow for his service.
Sally, you want to do 6?
Yes. Item 6 is to consider and act upon a resolution authorizing First Selectman Michael J. Frieda as the chief elected official of the town of North Haven to submit an application to the State of Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection for $500,000 in order to undertake an Urban Act grant and to execute an assistance agreement for the upgrades to the DeMayo and Bailey Athletics Complex project. So we have to consider that first and talk about it, and then we have a resolution after. So,
All right, I'm going to invite Lynn Sadowski up,
okay.
one of my right-hand colleagues in this government, right there, ladies and
Very
gentlemen.
fortunate.
Lynn
to have
Sadowski,
her.
Director of Public Works. So you approved as a body this resolution for $500,000 on the Urban Act grant in July of last year. However, the oversight was the DECD, which is Economic Development and Department of Economic Development and, am I getting that
Department of
right?
Department of
Community
Economic and Community
yes,
Development.
I'll get that
Yep.
out. Okay. And essentially, when we received the grant, we are assigned an oversight. And the oversight was from DECD, and she asked me to talk to her about the benefits of the economic development. And I said, well, actually, this is a improvement to athletic facilities over at Bailey Road Baseball area, the turf field area, and the DeMayo and Brozac baseball area, as well as the tennis courts at DeMayo Park. And she said, I think your oversight should be DEEP. And I said, I can't agree more. How do we swap it out? And it's a bit of a government at the state level change, so it's taken about a year. And so we're finally taking the DECD oversight and changing it for DEEP. Why is it important? Because instead of them looking at 2 projects, $250,000 for Bailey Road Baseball and $500,000 for Bailey and DeMayo Parks, we can now create one project overseen by Connecticut DEP, use one consultant, save the taxpayers a little bit more money. That extra money will go to projects where we'll be able to actually work on the tennis courts over at DeMayo. So it's essentially the same resolution you approved back in July, but instead of DECD, you now have Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection as the oversight.
Okay.
So I didn't get any more money. I just changed who the
So we're
oversight
getting it
is.
somewhere else
Yeah.
and consolidating it as one,
Consolidating,
which
yes.
one consultant is a great idea.
Yeah.
Yes, I when I looked at this, I said, wait a minute, we did this, and on a special Board of Selectmen meeting, July 11th, is when we approved the $500,000 grant for these upgrades with the State of Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development. So
Yep.
I'm like, I thought, oh, we need 500,000 more, but it's the same 500,000.
Yes.
Okay.
And the
I got
good
it.
thing about the 2 Urban Act grants is there is absolutely no town match, so it's $750,000 from the state to us to use for these athletic complexes.
Right. Now, in June 6th of 2022, we had a special town meeting where, salute.
Thank you.
Where we wanted, by we, I mean the town meeting approved $3.5 million for the athletic fields, and they specifically mentioned softball field, the relocation of the baseball field, and grandstands for the turf fields. Those were the three segments of this $3.5 million. And I remember the biggest chunk was the relocation, meaning just shifting where it didn't get relocated to another place in town, it just got relocated.
You're talking about the baseball field?
The baseball field.
Yeah.
So the biggest, so is this finishing that project, or is this doing new stuff?
Oh, brand new stuff. Yeah.
Okay, because this had a long list of stuff.
Right. Yeah, so the 500,000 is to put irrigation into Bailey Road baseball field.
Okay.
It is to add a javelin runway at the Vanacore track. It is to add Wi-Fi on the Vanacore complex grandstands, as well as the turf field grandstands. So Wi-Fi systems, and that helps us with security. And then we're also adding a netting between the new DeMayo baseball field that you're talking about,
Right.
the new Brozac field, and then we're going over to the tennis courts. There are 4 tennis courts that are in dire need of repair and reconstruction. So those items right there are part of this $500,000.
Okay, okay.
Which is separate from.
Yeah, I'm looking at everything that we approved on
Yeah.
June 6th of 2022.
Yep.
That was the $3 million for those. So this 500,000 is doing other stuff, so.
Yes.
Well, it's great that you're getting this. This is, these are complexes used by the schools. And one of the reasons why they don't need to spend a lot of money or have a big, huge capital budget is because you're getting a grant, and we bonded $3.5 million. The taxpayers borrowed money to help that. So I think the fact that we don't have to match is fantastic. So
It's nice.
great job again.
Thank
We had
you.
a public hearing earlier on a
Temple Pines, yeah.
renovation to Temple Pines, so you're getting a lot of accolades, and you deserve them
Thank you.
very much. Don't lose her.
Well, to that point, Lynn was leaving us as a department head, and she was retiring.
Oh.
But we're keeping her. We're keeping her to be a grant writer in town. So she won't be working full-time, but sure, her primary responsibility will be working with myself and Rich Monaco in the finance department, and she will be our grant writer. And I think you would all agree, based on her success and what she has brought to the town on these grants, she's perfect for this job.
Thank you.
I second and third that, because the money she saved this town for the renovations of Temple Pines, I wish that public hearing was televised, because you did a fantastic job for really no cost to the town, a $5.7 million beautiful
Sally.
renovation
And
for our seniors.
We are headed now towards Parkside, the sister facility, because I'm
Yes,
sure some
right.
of those folks are going to take a look at this too.
Yeah, we were there today
Yeah.
for their
Yeah.
open house.
Right.
Yeah, over at the senior center
Yeah.
behind it. Yeah, we had a 5-hour mandatory training on Tuesday.
Yeah,
And,
right.
if you don't sit through the grant, you don't get to apply for it, so.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
thank you
Our
for
application's
clarifying that.
due
I thought we were doing another 500,000. You could see why I thought that.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
May
Thank
I
you.
read the
Yes.
resolution?
Yes.
I will make a motion as follows. Resolved that the town of North Haven may enter into with and deliver to the State of Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection any and all documents which it deems necessary or appropriate for an Urban Act grant of $500,000 for the upgrades to the DeMayo and Bailey Athletics Complex project located at 222 Maple Avenue and 55 Bailey Road in North Haven, Connecticut, and be it further resolved that Michael J. Frieda, as first selectman of the town of North Haven, is authorized and directed to execute and deliver any and all documents on behalf of the town of North Haven and to do and perform all acts and things which he deems necessary or appropriate to carry out the terms of such documents. Michael J. Frieda now holds the office of first selectman, and further, he has held the office since December 1st, 2009. I'll make that resolution. That last sentence is sort of a little campaign thing for you there.
Yeah, I don't know
Is
why
that required to be written?
It's from the state, yes.
Well,
language.
Yeah.
well, I'll verify he is the first selectman. So I will make that motion as resolved and further resolved.
Okay, is there a second?
And I will second that resolution and as further resolved.
All right. Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for that vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next resolution. Next.
Would you like me to do 8?
Sure.
Okay. Number 8 is to consider and act upon a fair housing resolution for the town of North Haven. We do this, I believe, every year.
We do.
So
and
I
it's
will just-
important to a lot of the funding that we've received
Absolutely.
and continue to receive.
Yes. So I'll just read it. It's entitled Fair Housing Resolution, Town of North Haven. Whereas all persons are afforded a right to full and equal housing opportunities in the neighborhood of their choice, and whereas federal fair housing laws require that all individuals, regardless of race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familiar status, or national origin, be given equal access to all housing-related opportunities, including rental and home ownership opportunities, and be allowed to make free choices regarding housing location. And whereas Connecticut fair housing laws require that all individuals, regardless of race, creed, color, national origin, ancestry, sex, marital status, age, lawful source of income, familiar status, learning disability, physical or mental disability, sexual orientation, or gender identity or expression, be given equal access to all housing-related opportunities, including rental and home ownership opportunities, and be allowed to make free choices regarding housing location. And whereas the town of North Haven is committed to upholding these laws and realizes that these laws must be supplemented by an affirmative statement publicly endorsing the right of all people to full and equal housing opportunities in the neighborhood of their choice. Therefore, I'll make a motion that it be resolved that the town of North Haven hereby endorses a fair housing policy to ensure equal opportunity for all persons to rent, purchase, obtain financing, and enjoy all other housing-related services of their choice on a non-discriminatory basis as provided by state and federal law. And be it further resolved that the chief executive officer of the town of North Haven or his designated representative is responsible for responding to and assisting any person who alleges to be a victim of an illegal discriminatory housing practice in the town of North Haven, and for advising such person of the right to file a complaint with the State of Connecticut Commission on Human Rights and Opportunities, CHRO, or the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, or to seek assistance from the Connecticut Fair Housing Center, legal services, or other fair housing organizations to protect his or her right to equal housing opportunities. So I will make that motion as resolved and further resolved.
I'll second that resolution and that further resolution made by Sally.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for that vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I'll motion the acceptance of the property tax refunds is listed under item 9.
Second?
All right, motion second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item number 10. The next meeting here for the Board of Selectmen is Thursday, May 1st, here at 6:30 at Memorial Town Hall. Now I'd like to open it up to public comment. Mary White.
Mary White, Summer Lane, town resident for 35 years, and I am known for caring about the public's health, safety, and welfare. We have a public safety hazard in town relative to the need for firefighters in the fire department, and so tonight's comments and question are concerning public safety. So I want to start with quoting from the town's website about the Board of Finance. Quote, "The Board of Finance has a significant role in town government, with its activities extending to almost every phase of financial administration. Specific responsibilities include preparation of the town budget, setting the annual tax rate, approval of all special appropriations and transfers between appropriations, responsibility for the town's accounting system, providing for the annual audit, publication of the annual report." The Board of Finance consists of 6 members, each elected for 4-year terms, and they meet on the 3rd Wednesday of the month at 6:30, right here in the conference room, end quote. Okay, so department heads must submit their budgets and their requests to the finance director and to the first selectman. The fire chief did so and submitted on November 27, 2024 for 4 new firefighters. The Board of Finance has the power of the purse. The Board of Finance elected members expect and are required to receive department heads' budgets as they are submitted to the finance director and to the first selectman. The Board of Finance decides what is and what is not included in the town budget. January 11th, 2025, Fire Department Budget Workshop, 1 hour, 4 minutes, 36 seconds. Fire Chief, quote, "What I'm looking for here is 4 firefighters in this next budget year, and it would be at an expense of $506,000. We need to start looking at increasing the number of firefighters per shift," end quote. Now a question for all to consider. Can the North Haven Fire Department respond to your 911 call? I'll have an answer toward the end of my comments. Here is important data. 46% of 911 calls occur simultaneously. There is a shortage of volunteer firefighters, with only 19 on the roster and 15 qualified. 2 fire stations are closed during the day. Northeast is closed 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. West Ridge is closed 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. The volunteer firefighters work during the day and cannot man the stations. Last year, 64 calls to 911 went NFU. The CAD assigned no fire unit, or there was a delayed response, or there was an insufficient response. There are 4 shifts of career firefighters. 10 firefighters is the minimum. There are 2 shifts of 10, 2 shifts of 11. Approximately $90,000 is saved on shifts with 11, since when 1 firefighter is off, no mandatory contractual overtime obligation to fill the shift back to the 10 minimum is needed. We heard new firefighters cannot be included in this budget cycle because of revaluation. Last year, there was no revaluation and no new firefighters were included in the budget. The year before, there was no revaluation and no new firefighters were included in the budget. When there is a 911 call for a medical emergency, such as a heart attack, you want the North Haven Fire Department to respond because they have paramedics, whereas Nelson has EMTs and cannot guarantee to have a paramedic. Paramedics, for example, can start that IV to administer the anti-clotting medication, which can be the difference between life and death. For those teachers and parents who support the Board of Education side of the budget, who support the teachers, children, programs, sports, arts, etc., it is not enough if you do not support their safety as well. What happens if, for example, there's a fire alarm going off at one of our schools during the day in the winter? All the teachers and children are evacuated and are outside in the cold, waiting for the fire department, and no one responds because they are at another call on the highway. This 911 call for the fire alarm came in simultaneously, but after the 911 call for an accident on the highway. Adding $250,000 to the proposed town budget for 2 firefighters. So the proposed town budget is $137,599,076 with a proposed mill rate of 29.43. That $250,000 is only a fractional mill rate increase, 0.0018. All of our homes have increased in value due to revaluation. Ours went up over $103,000. We will have to set more money aside monthly. It's just the way it is. It is important to include 2 new firefighters in the budget. which the cost in comparison to the whole budget is fractions. Let's see. Okay, please email the first selectman and the Board of Finance members and tell them Fire Department Public Safety is a priority for you. You want your tax dollars spent there. Add 2 firefighters to the budget and 2 firefighters in next year's budget. Please attend the April 7 budget hearing, Monday, at the high school in the auditorium at 7 p.m. and ask the Board of Finance to put 2 firefighters in the budget. I will conclude by asking the question again. Can the North Haven Fire Department respond to your 911 call? Answer, maybe. That is not good enough when you are talking life and death. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments? Bill?
Bill Richards, North Avenue. Got a question for you. I've been trying to get onto the website, town website, all right? Well, on my computer, I type the web in, and it comes up with a real funky looking website. All right, I go onto my cell phone, type the same thing in, and it's coming up clear. Do we have a problem?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I comment? Yes.
Yes, go
You
ahead.
need to clear your cache because we updated the website. So you have to go in and clear your history, your internet history, and then type it in fresh and the new site will come up
On your home computer?
on
then?
your computer. Because I had the same exact problem. It
I
came
know,
up on my phone and now I was at home sick. I was trying to access the website to do some work and I couldn't. And I know exactly what happened. It comes up as gobbledygook.
Yeah, I'm saying to myself, this looks terrible for a wonderful town of North Haven, having this come up on your computer.
Yes, clear your internet history and try it again.
So that should work. Okay.
We've upgraded the site, Bill. What we did was we're reducing the number of clicks to get to certain links within the site.
Yeah.
So we're trying to improve the website. But
Well-
Valerie makes a good point. You got to clear the cache. CACHE, cache. That's how it's
Which
spelled.
is your search history.
Right.
All right, and the other thing is since we have no more not the advisor, the courier or the citizen, how are we getting the information out that we used to read to people in town?
It's a very good
Yeah, the
question.
New Haven Register, and there's a movement now in town. I met with the publisher of the North Haven magazine. They're thinking of putting a newspaper together. It won't be a direct mail. It may be sort of in stores and racks, but that's kind of the answer right now.
Yeah, I was sort of thinking about the same thing, the North Haven magazine, but how about with the advisor printing things out like, when you have your, say like Blight Commission meets or something, when the meetings are coming up, or something on even the web page for the town that would be easier to click to, all right? And to do that, you would probably have to have some type of mail-out letter to the households in town to tell them where they can get all this vital information.
Well,
It's on the calendar, there's a calendar still on the website. If
Yeah,
you look
but,
on the homepage, and
but
it
you know
does
what,
tell you all the meetings.
Yeah, what I'm looking for, Bill, is something that's simpler for the people and the older people in town too, instead of going, a lot of people are, the older generation, I'm in there, all right? They're not
It's
familiar
also
with
on,
computers.
But
Yeah,
Bill,
I know we have that.
This is why we spend thousands of dollars
I know,
on the
I'm glad
calendar.
you do have
And
that.
each month it shows all the meetings of the calendar.
Yeah, but what's
He
on the,
wants to
like,
see
their
the
agenda?
agenda. He's
The
talking-
agendas
yeah.
and the results of whether it was accepted or going to,
Well, if you go to public meetings, the list of all of the commissions, it starts with town meetings, and it lists all of the commissions on the left.
Yeah.
And you just click
Right.
on 2025, and it'll show all of them.
All the meetings, right.
Some of them don't have the videos, but,
No.
and some of them don't have the minutes, which is a problem. But most of the biggies, Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance,
yeah.
Board of Ed, the minutes are there. And it's really, it is a few clicks. You got to click onto public meetings, then you got to find the list, you got to find the commission or board you're interested in, click that. Then click the year, and then click what, it has the agenda, and it has the minutes, and then it has the video. You can also see the videos on nhtv.com.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
But it is about 4 or 5 clicks, but it's there.
But that other one, where you type it in and get what you get, that's scary for anybody looking at the town. So maybe, in that case right there, maybe like in the advisor even, you could put a small clip in there, small little write-up, how people can clear that up.
All right, I think that's a good point. Yeah, we'll look into that, Bill. That part, that's a good point.
And public notices are being put in the Citizen, because we still have a Citizen. It's just not getting mailed, it's getting put at your driveway the way the advisor was, unfortunately. But we are using that for a
Okay.
lot of our public notices that you're talking about,
Yeah.
like light meetings and things like
Yeah,
that.
like for the budget meeting coming up at the high school.
Right.
Is the Citizen every week? 'Cause
This Citizen is every week, and I believe it comes out, it's on Friday.
Yeah.
The advisor's at the beginning of the week, the
Right.
Citizen is at the end of the week. They're both at the driveway. But the advisor does not have any reporters, so
No.
that's a little bit of, that's why we
It's-
can't really use it for news.
Okay.
Because there is no staff.
I know, that was a
No
major
report.
loss for losing those two
The-
papers.
Yeah.
The Citizen and the Courier, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the
'Cause they used to
Citizen
be
is now
delivered,
owned by
yeah.
Hearst, which is the New Haven Register, so they own that now,
Oh, okay.
the Citizen. So it's still in existence, it's a different owner. So a lot of the stories are the same things you would read in the New Haven Register, they're publishing in the Citizen as well.
And the other thing is, we were talking about the drug drop-off.
Yeah.
People should know that there is a box inside police headquarters.
That's true, that's exactly right.
All right, so if you're not around on that date, the 26th, you can go there anytime.
You're absolutely right, that's a good point, yes.
And, you know, I've used that. You don't have to be afraid, you just walk in the lobby, nobody knows you're even walking in there, and you just drop in the box, go out, get in your car, and go home again.
That's exactly the reason why we put it in there a few years ago, the chief and I, for that convenience, so.
It is. We do use it. The other thing is, for the streets, we're hiring an outside concern to monitor the paving. I was
Yeah,
reading.
well, yeah,
SCROG,
the SCROG.
that's being funded through SCROG, through
I read
the
that.
Council of Governments. So we did put a notice out about that because there's a vehicle that will be going through town
Okay.
and looking at and assessing all of the conditions of the roads. So we didn't want people to be concerned when they see a vehicle, possibly going up and down the road a few times.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But it's a study on the pavement plan. It's not paving. I mean, they're gonna do a study of the entire town.
So is that going to get, what's on the list to be paid for this year, right? Is that going to be
No.
going to effect next year?
Next year.
Okay.
So, and I'll tell you why we're doing this, okay? First of all, it's free to us.
Oh,
We don't have
good.
to hire anybody. It's through our relationship with the Council of Governments. But the software we had years ago to analyze the roads is totally antiquated right now. So this is a more statistical study to evaluate the roads, to tell us what are the priority roads for next year, rather than us arbitrarily just make a decision. So we're trying to get the data to show that these are the top roads that have to be done, and that's what that's about.
All right, and the only other thing is with everything going on in the federal government, is that going to affect our town?
I think it's
Good question.
I think it's undetermined at this point. It all depends what the federal government does with the state of Connecticut and how that impact, if there is an impact, and there may very well be, how it's going to trickle down to the local cities and towns. And I see it particularly in grants, potentially, education. So the answer right now is we don't know, but everybody's talking about it.
No question, no answer when it's going to happen?
No, we have no idea, no.
Sooner or later it will happen. Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, Bill, good seeing you. Mrs. Barrett.
Good evening, Nancy Barrett, 1 Crestview Drive. I just wanted to expand upon the point that Bill had just raised, because you were all talking about the car tax cap, which, by the way, is 32.46 mils. And another fact, and again, you were considering the impact of that on the grand list and, you know, the revenue to the town. But another way to think about this is the potential impact of the president's proposed tariffs on individuals, organizations, and towns. So not only the cost of living, the cost of doing business, the cost of town operating costs, but also if you need to buy a new car next year, not only will the cost of the car be that much higher, but then your car taxes will be that much higher too. So, so even though the mill rate is going down, I think there is still this potential for, because the value of the car will be so elevated as a result of these, not just the grant issue, but also the actual tariffs. I think that's another variable that will be impacting the individual taxpayers as well as organizations and municipalities. One question that I did have for Mr. Frieda is on the drive into work this morning, I saw that they were digging up Route 40, the connector, just before the on-ramp to Route 91 South, and I was just wondering, it was basically an overpass, and I wondered what was going on there, and is that something that's going to go on for a long time?
It might. It's the state informed us that Route 40 connector, they informed myself and Mayor Garrett and Hamden that there's going to be a reconstruction there to improve the road safety. So my experience with this is a state project, not a town project. It takes longer. So we don't know when it's going to be concluded, but that's what's happening there. It's done for the safety of the cars and the traveling on Route 40. So both Hamden and North Haven have been notified of that.
Yeah, it's kind of a treacherous spot because you have the people that are coming all the way across from Hamden right at the exact same spot where the people that are getting on from Dixwell Avenue are merging, and the right-hand lane disappears.
I saw it today. I was there today. I saw
yeah.
it. But it's in the state hands. You know, they got all the experts, so they're managing the traffic flow. But that's the answer to that.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks. All right. Any other comments? No? All right. Motion to adjourn?
I'll motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second?
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for being here. And thank you for those watching on North Haven TV. Hopefully we'll see you on Monday night, April 7th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
The preceding program is brought to you in part through a grant from the town of North Haven. Watch town meetings or other videos on demand at nhtv.com.